right, here we go.
Still there?
It's low.
Okay. So now I'm getting I'm getting a Facebook I don't want to touch the Facebook notification.
Yeah, it's fine because it's live now. Yeah, so it's live on my page now. So we are live. So I'm about to touch. I'm about to share it. Share now. Share to your page. Okay. All right. Sharing it, and I am watching it on my phone so I can see any comments that may come up. I'm about to share it. Share now. All right. Hello. Hey. Pause. Did I do that? Oh, Lord.
Oh.
Is it showing this pause on your end?
No, it says live on Facebook on mine.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Maybe it's just my computer. It's tripping. All right. Let me just make sure. Because it's a delay. Hello, everybody. Hey, y'all. Hey. Just want to make sure that everything is everything. Hey, y'all. I don't know why it's doing it on my end.
See, I can only see the just you because I'm not in the Facebook Live, so I can't see people connecting. But it don't matter.
Okay, yeah. I just want to make sure because it's showing on my phone, so we should be good. Should be good. Yep. Okay. Be good. Good to go. So I'm gonna just minimize this so I won't have too many screens up. All right. Oh, hey y'all. I'm excited. This is about to be good. Hey, Ro. This is about to be good. So y'all, I have no idea what Jared is about to ask me. Okay. This is real funny.
That's how it's supposed to be. That's why I wanted it that way.
That's exactly how it's supposed to be. So let me just do my little introduction and then I'm gonna turn it over to him because I don't know what's gonna happen after that. So hello, everybody. My name is Shavon Carter. I am the You Relationship Coach, and what that means is I am passionate about all things relationships, especially the relationship with yourself. And I am excited that we've been doing this for a whole year. Woo! Woo! Can't believe it's been going on that long. Just all kind of special guests and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so I got my brother on. Y'all saw him on a couple of weeks ago, sharing his story, his beautiful engagement story, and he is off the dating scene. So yeah, we've had several conversations on here. So I reached out to him and asked him to interview me so that we can talk about just whatever he wants to talk about. So I'm gonna turn it over to you, Jared.
All right. So some of the stuff I'm going off of what I either already know about you, or at least some of the things that we've talked about, and then hopefully get you to go into a little bit deeper into certain things. So I know around the time, well, first you just gave your you smiling already. So you just gave your introduction. You said you're a relationship coach. So the first question is, what inspired you to become a relationship coach?
Ooh, so what inspired me to become the You Relationship Coach? So for some reason I'm passionate about relationships, and I guess it comes from my own experiences of relationships. Like I've been married before, I'm divorced, and before that I was going from person to person. So it was just something that was intriguing to me about relationships. And then after my divorce is when I really started the journey of really learning how to relate to myself. And I think that's when the You Relationship Coach came about, because I was like, what's going on within me that caused me to go from person to person and just end up in these types of relationship, attracting similar types of people. So I think I just got curious about what was going on within me. And then that, birthed a whole desire to just help other people figure out what's going on within them and see how it impacts their relationships.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So since you started going down that path, what challenges have you came across or have you had to overcome in order to get to where you are right now?
Oh, it's been so much. I think the challenges have been just me being my own client. Like I'm doing the work, like literally. I'm always reflecting. I'm always looking at like what's going on within me. What are my triggers? So I think that's the challenging part because I'm living this out as I'm sharing with other people. So it's like I'm being the guinea pig and learning from these experiences that I talk about so much because I'm going through it. So I think that's been the most challenging part, just living it out, and yeah, and going through like the rough relationship experiences, even though they've taught me so much about myself, some of it has been painful, some of it has been really hard. So I think that's been the toughest part, like experiencing the different relationships and then seeing what's going on within me.
So then with that being said, are you saying the challenge or one of the challenges is hard for you to, I guess, apply the knowledge that you're learning or the knowledge that you're giving to people into your own life or to your own relationships?
No, so it's kind of the other way around. So the reason I'm able to share stuff is because I've gone through it. So the
Okay.
challenge in that is going through the stuff so that
Okay.
I can have content to share. You know what I mean? So it's like I
Gotcha.
like to share from my own life experiences, not for some book or anything like that. I share from my own personal life. So it's like, man, why I gotta be the one to go through all of this, but it's going to help somebody else. You know what I mean? But so
Right.
that's the hard part, being the one that goes through it.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what would you say? So there's all kinds of relationship books out there, or some relationship coaches that's
Yeah.
out there. What would you say? Obviously, you're your own person. You have your own personality, and your
Mhm.
challenges are specific to you. But what's different, or what would you say is different about you as a relationship coach
Mhm.
versus somebody else that's on a relationship coach or some other book that someone has seen on the show?
Yeah. So what makes me different is I term myself the you relationship coach. So I don't consider myself a relationship coach. I'm a you relationship coach. So what that means is I want to focus on how you are relating to yourself. Now, yes, it will impact how you relate in relationships, but how are you dealing with you? Like, are you good with your own self? Because that relationship to me is the most important. If I don't like who I am, then when I go out into the world and when I meet somebody, it's going to be conflict. So I think that's what separates me because I'm really focused on how am I relating to myself. And I really want people to see, what kind of negative self-talk is in your head. How do you feel about you? So that's the stuff that I feel separates me from other maybe relationship coach because that's not my focus. I'm not trying to tell you how to get into a relationship. I'm telling you how to be good with you, and that will impact how you get into a relationship or how you relate to somebody else.
Okay. It's
Mhm.
funny. So I'm into movies. If anybody know me, I'm into movies. So when you said that, I'm thinking of, you ever seen that movie Two Can Play That Game?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
remember how she was like so focused on having everything itemized on this is what you do if a guy do that, and this is what you
Hmm.
do, this is what happened, to the
Yeah,
point where she was like not allowing herself to enjoy the relationship or fall in love or something like that. Do you see
exactly.
that happening at times with you having your experience or becoming that relationship or that you coach?
Hmm. Yeah, and see, that's why I don't consider myself a relationship coach. Because don't blame me, because I don't want to be the one to tell you how to go about getting this person. Because I don't know. I feel like everybody's path is different. So what works for me definitely won't work for somebody else. So I don't want to be like, girl, this all you need to do. This ABC, and then boom, you got your man. Because I don't know if that's going to be true or not. So what I focus on is be the best you that you can be and see what kind of energy that attracts. What you're putting out, is what you're bringing in. So I haven't had those experiences where I shared something with somebody and they were like, "Oh, that didn't work. You told me to do this." Because I ain't telling you what to do or how to do it as far as catching no man. Because I don't have the answers. All I know is what's working for me, and it's starting with me working on the inside and just
Okay.
being good with who I am. Yeah.
So go into some of those things that you talked about. You talked about negative talk. You talked about like the attracting people, meaning what you put out is what you get back.
Hmm.
So did you have some of that type of mindset before you started this, or I guess what got you or helped you get to that mindset to know, you know what, this is something I need to pay attention to, and I need to do a little bit more
Yeah.
developing it?
Yeah, so I would say when I started therapy, so back in 2013, I found out, my ex-husband was cheating, and I was just broken and I didn't know what to do. So I started going to therapy because I felt like there were some other things that were going on within me that led to this situation. So it wasn't always all on him. But it was probably back then is when I really started to see the importance of looking within and just being aware of yourself. And so I think as I started to go through the process of peeling back the layers, what happened to me in childhood, how did my relationship with my father impact my relationship, with men? How did my relationship with my mother, what was my self-esteem like? As I started to go through that process in therapy, then it was like a whole new, like I just went on this exploration with myself. That's what it felt like. Like I was learning me all over again. Like it's almost like I didn't know who I was, and then I was unlocking so much about me. So it was like, man, this is some good stuff. I wonder, if other people are doing this, so it's like I started to feel better about me. And it's like I wanted to share that with other people. Like, oh my God, you don't have to be stuck in all your stuff. Like all you got to do is like, let's just go through these processes and accept who you are and listen to, what's going on within you and deal with your stuff. Like, so that's when I started to get excited about just the journey of discovering who you really are and just wanted to share it with other people. So It started with my own journey.
Wow, but you just said something very, very interesting. You said your ex-husband cheated on you, but although he cheated on you, something in you told you to go to therapy.
Yeah.
And find out. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, when I really look back at it, we got married in 3 months. Like I knew him over a period of 10 years, but when we really started dating and got serious about marriage, it was just 3 months. So I knew I rushed into it. I didn't get a chance to really get to know him. Like, even though I knew him, from afar, because he was living far away, I didn't get a chance to get to know him. So what was going on within me that caused me to rush into a marriage like that, and just searching for the love and the affection? Like I felt like there was something going on within me. Yeah, he had his issues, but ain't nothing I can do about that. I needed to know, what I was doing that led to that type of situation, that type of dysfunction. So, I wanted to look at me because I knew even before him that I was feeling unhappy within myself. So, for me, it was just like, all right, let me stop running from myself and just deal with my stuff. I can't deal with it no more. It's like the carpet was pulled up under me and just like, okay, you gonna deal with it or not? Like, what you gonna do? So,
Wow.
so
no,
I was,
it's just big you say that. It's just big you say that because, I don't want to speak for obviously African Americans, but, therapy is like that word no one wants to talk about.
Yeah.
Nobody want to deal with. But I guess, again, going back to what I'm talking about, your ex-husband cheated on you. So most people would think, okay, he's the one that effed up. Why am I going to go to therapy? Or there's not necessarily wrong with me, but he the one that messed up. So why am I going to therapy? But again, you had the inclination of saying, hey, even though he cheated on me, and like you said, it was just something about it that I just wasn't happy with. Well, let me figure this out. So if you don't mind sharing, if you do, that's fine. But what did you find out when you went to therapy, when you started therapy? What did you find out?
Man, I think the main thing was I didn't respect him. I wanted him to be who I wanted him to be. You know what I'm saying? Like I wanted him to be this image of a man that I had in my head because I was racing against the clock. I was in my late 30s, and so, or was it I was in my early 30s. And so I was racing against the clock and I wanted to be married. So I made him into this image. And in reality, that's not who he was. And so when I was faced up against who he really was, like, I ain't like it. I didn't like it. And he felt that, even though, I was a good woman, I did not have respect for him as a man. Wow. And it was really kind of relating to how I felt about my father, my stepfather. So, it was all of that, dealing with that. And I remember him saying that, that he just didn't feel like I respected him. And I didn't, I said some really hateful things about him one time. He's found it in my journal, and I think it just kind of went down from there because the love wasn't there. I was on a mission to create this image and get this life that I wanted. It wasn't really even about him. It was about me trying to get somewhere.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So I had like a whole bunch of questions, but just hearing all this information, I'm not even paying no attention to the questions that I wrote down before I talked to you. I'm just, I mean, you said a couple of things. You said you didn't respect him. Question. So are you, okay, well, you said you didn't respect him. Did you grow up with a father figure? I'm sorry if that's too personal.
No, because I'll tell it all. So I grew up with a stepfather. My dad wasn't in my life. He had his own challenges that he was dealing with. So I didn't grow up with my biological father. I grew up with a stepfather. And because of what he was struggling with, there was a lot of turmoil in the home. So I didn't respect him either. So I didn't respect my father. I didn't respect my stepfather because I didn't feel love. I didn't feel, just the manliness or the nurture or whatever, a man provides a daughter. I didn't experience that. So it created just this dislike, even hatred for them. And so it was just all this animosity, this bitterness, this anger that was built up that I had never dealt with. And so here I am still searching for what I didn't get from them, in other men, not realizing that I had all this stuff that I hadn't dealt with. Yeah. So I just carried all of that into from one person to another. So it was almost like, honestly, like I was objectifying men. Women say we feel objectified, but it was like I was looking for them to give me something. So it was almost like I was looking at them as objects. What can you do for me? Can you feel? And it wasn't even material. It was more emotionally. Can you feel this void that I have? And if you can't, then it's just like, okay, well, you're no good to me, Wow. So yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So we got a question on here. It's a lot of stuff I know.
Okay, go ahead.
So Thomas says, so are you taking questions from everyone? Yes, Thomas. Yep, I am. Yep. So if y'all got questions, and I'll share because I know you're not looking at the Facebook Live.
Yeah. So just let me know when you're about to go cut into one of those questions. So
All
going back to another thing. So you said you knew him for 10 years. You guys was, I guess, together for 3 months and you got married. And then you said you felt like you were racing against the clock. Is that the somewhat of the ideal fairy tale visual that some women have where they feel in the early 30s, I should be married, I should have 2 kids, I should be well established and all that. So then you feel like you're racing against the clock?
Absolutely. That's exactly how I felt. And then to put a spiritual aspect on it, at the time, where my relationship was spiritually, I felt that God told me I was going to be married in 2009. So when me and him, I was in a 5-year relationship prior to that, and it wasn't progressing into marriage. Like we weren't on the same page. It wasn't progressing. And so when we broke up, it was towards the end of the year. So it's like, okay, I gotta, I didn't know this was going on underneath the surface, but, hindsight looking at it, I was like, okay, I got 3 more months. What am I going to do? So then I start communicating with my ex-husband. We were friends, but it was like we were off and on friendship. He was living in Florida. I was in Maryland. So we started communicating again. And then, my emotions kind of got dumped onto him. And then I put all my focus and attention on him. And then, it progressed into there. But it was really me trying to get somewhere. I thought I was supposed to be married by 2009. I wanted kids. I wanted to be married. I felt like I was doing all the right things. I was, serving in the church. I had a good job. I was independent. So why don't I have a husband? What is going on? So it was just this mindset, that I see in movies and read in books and you hear even in church and all these kind of things. If you do all these things, then, you'll be blessed with a husband. But that wasn't happening. And I was getting frustrated. So I took matters into my own hands and I made it happen. Literally made it happen. Bought my own ring, made it happen, moved down there, went down there, packed him up in the U-Haul and brought him back. Literally, when I tell you that I was on a mission, that's how determined I was to meet that goal. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Seriously, when I look at it, it's like, wow, you were really headstrong and really determined, but I thought it was God, you know what I'm saying? You couldn't tell me that, and where I was spiritually, you couldn't tell me that this wasn't God's plan and him orchestrating it.
So then now another question comes from that. So while you're doing all this, making this happen, are you getting all different types of subliminal signs saying that this ain't right, this guy's not the right one, or I don't feel happy with him, or I'm not comfortable with him, but you're still obviously, like you said, racing against the clock and trying to make it happen?
in the moment, I wasn't paying attention to any signs. Looking back, there were so many signs. Yeah, looking back, there were a lot of signs. So one, we were living, long distance, so we didn't have that time to cultivate a relationship in the same space. Two, rushing into it, I had just gotten out of a relationship, so I didn't give myself time to, really heal from, that relationship that I was in. He had some things that he was going through, and I don't want to put his business out there, but there were some things that I saw within him that, if I would have paid attention, that he didn't have himself together, and just some patterns that I saw from previous relationships, where it would have told me that he would have did the same thing that he did, in this relationship. So yeah, now that I look back, there were definitely signs, but while I was in it, I created signs. So I would get an email, of an inspiration that aligned with what where I was headed. So I would use those as signs from God that I was going in the right direction. So we can create signs,
Right.
So it's all subjective. For me, it was subjective. I created the signs that I needed at the time to confirm what I wanted. So it it was real. It was some trickeration going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were, like you said, you were making him the one versus showing you that he's one, or it being okay.
Yeah. So I got a question. So we got a question from Thomas. Wait a minute, Thomas. Let me open it up. I can't. It won't let me open it up. So dang, y'all. Because it says, so you said filling a void is what you was doing. My question: do you think you could have filled? Dang, I can't see the rest of the question to see what else. So I don't know what he said. Do you think you could have filled the void? And then I didn't see what else. So if you could type just that part in there, Thomas, I can answer your question. Okay. I'll get to it. And then Ronisha said, them emails and memos get you every time. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And Erica said, we are twins. Girl, I'm telling you, we are so crafty as women. We can create the situations, and people, we can create the situations that we want and make it line up just how we want it. Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I'm getting at, and then some things that I've learned, but what I'm getting at is, so it's almost like you said you didn't respect him, obviously, because of some of the things that you didn't grow up with a father figure in the house, and then the way that you kind of looked at men, and then with the your fairy tale, sorry saying fairy tale, but your ideal situation as into when you thought you would be married and when you thought you would have the kids, so you felt like you was racing the clock. So then, do you feel like, in your experience now being the you coach, do you feel that, I mean, it's not like, hopefully it's not a judging thing, but do you feel some people are running into a lot of not so good results because of the fact they feel the same exact way? And again, with that being said, they're also not looking at the signs because they feel like they're got a little bit of pressure going on, or a lot of pressure behind them.
Yeah. So, I honestly see it differently. So even though I had signs and all that kind of stuff, I'm thankful for everything that I went through. So I use that to say, when people are going through on their journeys, and let's say they're kind of going down a similar path that I was going down, and they're not ready to see it, it's like, okay, well, they'll get it, when they need to get it. So it's like, that keeps me from judging people, because I know I was where I was. Nobody could have told me, even if, I would have ran into a you relationship coach at the time, I wasn't ready to receive, those words of wisdom or that information. So I try to meet people where they are, wherever they are on their journey. So it's like, and that keeps me from judging them. It's just like, that's just where they are. So I just, if they have questions, or I just try to see, what need I can meet in the moment, if it's just a listening ear, because they'll get it when it's time for them to get it. But it's not up to me to be the one to navigate their path, because it was necessary. For me, I feel like it was necessary for me to go through that. It just was, it taught me so much, and it got me to where I am today. So I don't regret it. It's just, that's just where I was, you know what I mean? So I treat people the same way.
Okay.
I try to, yeah.
So going through that, and then that pressure, and then going through the therapy, and then at least the relationship that I know about, how did you know, or what did you do differently getting into that next relationship, or what did you try to pay more attention to going into that next relationship to try to make sure you don't go and hit those same pitfalls that you did with this marriage?
Yeah, so I can't say that I didn't hit the same pitfalls. I think it's been a journey, because even after that relationship, I didn't get into a serious relationship for about 3 years because I wanted to take some time off. I talked to people, I communicated, maybe went out on a date or here or two, but I just didn't have the strength or the energy to really get involved, with anybody else. So it was like, even after that, even after the 3 years and I was in therapy and all that kind of stuff, when I met somebody else, I still had stuff that I was dealing with. So I can't say that, I learned everything and then my next choice was, better. It was just like I learned from each one.
Mm-hmm.
And so the relationship that I'm in now, because of the work that I've been doing and this just a perspective shift, I can see a difference, in the type of person that he is and the type of person, the people that I was dealing with. So I can see a difference in the person now. But people, prior to him, like in between my ex-husband and him, there were still some similarities because there was still some stuff that I was working out within myself. So I was still kind of attracting certain things. So I just say from each person I learned something, and I just picked up something along the way about myself. Yeah.
Okay. And you just said another thing that we always talked about, attracting.
Yeah.
So what would you say, looking back on it, what would you say, the whole, if you want to get real deep into it, the whole, you put your thoughts out into the universe and it will give you back what you put out there.
Yeah.
So what would you say you were putting out into the universe to attract that type versus what you're putting out there now?
So back then, I think the biggest thing that I can see is, I was putting out that I didn't love who I was, and I needed them to treat me the way I truly needed to be treated, but how I wasn't treating myself, if that makes sense. So I was looking for them to be my savior. I was looking for them to validate me, to make me feel good, to encourage me all the time and feel that hole within me. So the difference is, because I'm really have been on this self-love journey and really learning how to do that for myself, I'm not so needy for it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the
Right.
hole isn't so big that I need them. Like I'm just, just trying to pull everything out of them. I found a place within myself that I can provide what it is that I need so that I'm not draining the man for it. If that makes sense. Yeah, because I was draining them, and then I was wondering why, and I was attracting. They had the same thing, something within them. So because I was so needy, I was meeting people that either were rejecting me, rejecting who I was, they weren't accepting who I was, or they were trying to control who I was, or they were trying to manipulate me, to be who they wanted me to be. So it was those kind of things, and it was simply because I hadn't tapped into who I was and standing up for her. Like I was looking for them to do it. So that's the difference that I see. I feel like I'm more whole within myself, that I'm not looking so much for the man to do it. Like I've learned how to do it for me.
Wow. You about to go to the question?
Yeah, because I couldn't see it on my phone. Thomas, I'm
Okay.
getting to you because I see it on the computer. So let me get to his question. He says, dang, where is that, y'all? Well, I can't find the daggone question, but from your mate. Hold on, y'all, because I really want to address what he's saying. Maybe I need to click on the thing. I'm trying to get to your question, Thomas. Okay, I just got to put it on mute, I think. Okay, so he says, it sounds like you was looking for a father's love. Yeah, I was looking for a father's love from my mate. So he said, do you think you could have filled that void to better communicate and coming to terms with their daddy issues? Don't get mad for me saying that. No, absolutely. It was daddy issues. That's exactly what it was. It was unresolved daddy issues. So he said, my question, do you think you could have filled that void through better communication instead of basically getting what you need and then getting rid of said persons? Yes, absolutely. So if I was, so basically the journey that I'm on right now, practicing self-love, and then also dealing with my issues with my father. And that has been an ongoing thing. So when I feel myself being triggered, or when I feel myself, wanting to get mad at him for whatever, it's dealing with that and not taking it out on the man. But for me, that comes with self-awareness and recognizing when I'm doing it. Because if you're not, aware of how you're wired and how you're triggered, then you can automatically go into, you know, treating a man a certain way without realizing where that's coming from. So the work for me has been like, okay, let me stop myself in the moment because I feel like I'm getting triggered because he said this and it's just taking me back to a place where my father wasn't there or he disappointed me. So let me disconnect him from, you know, my father because he's not my father. So it's like, that's the kind of work that I do in my head through journaling, through counseling, through prayer, you know, all that kind of stuff. So yes, if I had done the work, one, I probably wouldn't have been attracted to my ex-husband in that way because I would have picked up on some things and I wouldn't be looking for, you know, certain things from men in the way that I was. So yes, Thomas. So the short answer is yes. If I would have dealt with my daddy issues, then I think the communication would have been better. Yeah.
Well, this is eye-opening. I mean, seriously, this is really eye-opening because just the fact that you've been able to identify not necessarily what you need, like you said, you're not all the way there or whatever, but like you said, you started out with the therapy and then now to be able to understand where some things are coming from, but then the big piece, and you said whenever you're dealing with that next person, you knew what something was happening when that was giving you that trigger and where it was coming from and being able to separate that says a lot because I'm just thinking if you didn't go to therapy or if you didn't get to that mindset, you wouldn't know how to identify those things to be able to say, wait, maybe this could be something else than what it is, to the point where you can avoid an argument with your mate that you know, you guys, you both get along well, but you can avoid an argument and hopefully not ruin a relationship. I mean, obviously he got to do his part, but wow, you're doing a lot.
And let me say more about that because one of the things that, you know, I learned in therapy and it's been so monumental for me. And I use it in my relationship now. And it's even kind of unlocking a whole deeper level of conversation. And I talk about it in my book, Dear Miss Wholeness. So the whole story about my ex-husband and what I went through, you know, is in my book, Dear Miss Wholeness, because I talk about my journey. So if you want to know how and all that kind of stuff, I really lay it out in here, Dear Miss Wholeness. So you can get it on Amazon or ShavonCarter.com. But one of the things towards the end of the book that I talk about is the different aspects of me. So I have 6 different aspects that I've identified within myself. So it's an aspect that is determined, that is, you know, that part of me that is like business focused. There's a spiritual part of me. There's a part of me that's really fearful and tries to sabotage things. There's a part that's like, you know, ghetto fabulous, you know, just want to party and have fun. There's a part that's like a counselor coach. And then there's a part that is like the passionate, freaky side of me. So me understand you stupid. She in there, you know. So me looking at all of the different aspects of me and how I'm wired, not in a schizophrenic way, like split personalities, but just seeing the different aspects of me and what comes up in certain situations has helped me to understand who is operating at what time. So let's say, for instance, I get into a relationship and I'm feeling fearful. If I'm not clear, if I'm not aware that she is rising up, then I can let her run the show and she'll sabotage a whole relationship. But what I have learned is, okay, I know she's fearful and it's connected to, you know, the pain that she's had and, you know, that I've had in other relationships. So let me calm her and let her know that it's okay. You know, I know you're scared to open up and to be vulnerable, but it's okay. You know, I need you to trust me. So I do a lot of talking to myself and that kind of thing. And in this new relationship, he's read my book, so he knows those different parts of me. So we talk about those different aspects. So he'll be like, who's showing up today? Or how are the different parts of you doing? Where are they at with us? You know what I'm saying? And so that has like unlocked a deeper level of conversation. So where he's understanding more about me and I'm understanding. So it's like when I do feel fearful, I can share that with him, be like, babe, look, okay, so, you know, and I name them like D trying to rise up because she's scared. She don't want to open up. You know what I mean? And so it's like we can have, he's like, well, tell D, you know, we good. Like tell her to go and sit down. You know what I mean? But so we make jokes about it, but it has helped me so much. And it's helped me to learn about me and it's helping with my new relationship so that he can understand who I am. And I can understand his different parts because I want to know those too. So that we can just communicate with each other on a whole new level. So so that has helped me tremendously in the process of, you know, the transformation in this journey that I'm on.
So the big thing I'm getting from you is major self-development and self-awareness.
It's so key, y'all. Like, we cannot go into a relationship with anybody if we don't know how we're wired, because we take all this stuff into a relationship and then we wonder why it don't work, and then we want to blame the man, we blame the woman, but we're not in tune with who we really are. You know what I'm saying? And it's
Right.
like, we are, if you look at it from a spiritual perspective, we are tripartite beings. Like, we are a spirit, a soul, and a body. So when you break the soul down, that's all I've done, is just broken my soul down in a little bit more pieces so that I can understand how they're wired. That's all I've done. But we're not just one dimensional. We are, multifaceted. We are multidimensional. So it's important for us to get to know all those aspects, because when we suppress them and when we don't deal with them, they come up in full force. And then we wonder why there's chaos in our minds and in our relationships, because we're not dealing with our stuff. We want to blame everybody else instead of dealing with us. And so I have chosen to deal with me, and I've seen how that has helped, in my relationship.
So just to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying, so the self-awareness, the self-development, but then did you start getting better results when it came to dating once you started to do some of those things and
Yeah,
work on those things?
absolutely. So it's changed my perspective. So even though I have been in a series of relationships that hasn't turned out the way that I wanted them to, I can now see how I've learned from each one. So I'm not beating myself up for, oh, that relationship didn't work and, oh, he left me. No, he was a teacher. He came to teach me something. So it's like keeping me from being bitter and just beating up on myself for my choices. It's like, no, if I choose to beat up on myself, then that's what'll happen. But if I choose to look at my choices and see how, okay, let me learn from what has happened. And I take what I learned from the last relationship, and then I, take it into the next, then I see, okay, all right. And so now I can see how things are different. Like in this new relationship, like I said, is where I'm really seeing the results or the fruit of the work that I'm doing within myself, because it's totally different. It's more calm, it's more relaxed, there's more love, it's more openness, more communication. So I can see that. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then another part that you touched on and we always talked about, so you added self affirmations or affirmations in there. Is that affirmations as into to help build yourself up with the self development, and then also affirmations speaking what you want to attract when it came to dating and the type of man or the type of man you wanted to meet?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I learned in therapy was that I need encouragement. Like, words of affirmation is my love language, so I need that. So instead of looking for a man or anybody else to do it for me, I learned how to affirm myself. And then I remember, I don't know exactly when, but there was one point where something shifted for me. And instead of looking at, oh, I don't have a man, and, oh, there's no good man out there, or, oh, I can't trust a man, I was sitting down with one of my really good girlfriends one day, and we were talking, and it was just like something dropped in my spirit. And it was just like, you know what? There's an abundance of men out there, and all I need is one. That's what I said. So, and this was, I do remember, so this was before I got into my last relationship, not the one I'm in now, but the one before that. Mm-hmm. And so I took on that approach, and I went online, and I was, communicating with guys, but I went on with a different angle. It was just like, you know what? I'm just going to be fun. I'm going to be light. I'm going to be just, not looking for anything per se. And so I flirted with him. I was like, oh, you got your gun showing and all that kind of stuff. But it was just, because I believed that there was a plethora for me to choose from. So let me just, be my fun loving self, and it'll come whenever it comes. Well, that developed into a relationship. But what I took from that is it was my mindset that needed to shift. I needed to see there's an abundance of men out there, and I just needed one. That relationship didn't work out, but I still take that on. You know what I mean? So I don't see there being, a shortage of men. I don't see that. I just don't choose to look at the world that way. And, I got one. So.
Okay.
I'm just saying. So,
okay.
It worked for me because I just chose to look at it differently, and not to say that everybody else is going to happen like that, but I'm just saying what works for me.
Okay.
I just had to change my mindset.
Okay.
And just put it out there what I saw instead of limiting myself.
Okay, you about to go to a question?
Let me see. Let me see.
No, I see. When I see you looked at I thought that's what you're doing.
Look at your choices, learn from them. That's good, man. So, yeah, there's a plethora of men. It is, y'all. It's a plethora. Don't buy into the hype that it's, a shortage and there's no good men out there. I'm telling you, if you keep telling yourself that, then that's what you're going to experience. Just try it and see. Try it. Just do an experiment. If you don't believe me, just do an experiment and just tell yourself something different about, men. Even if you see, and think about how you see men. Like when I say men, what comes up for you? Because that could be also what's blocking you. If I say men and you be like, oh, okay, well, what is that? What's that? That right there? What is that? Because that's what is coming out through you some kind of way. So deal with that. If you don't think about men in a positive light, if people say man or men, if you get in the conversations and women start complaining about men and you chime in with that, check that, see what's going on within you that's causing you to feel that way, so that you can just declutter all that stuff, so that you can be open to receive and see them in a different light. Because one of the things that me and my girlfriends talk about all the time is we got to learn how to relate to people human to human. Like if we continue relating to men as enemy, as the one that's got to be my husband, then we're going to miss the point. You know what I mean? So I just think we got to get back to just the simple art of relating. How do I relate to you, my brother? How do I relate to men? And yeah, so me saying that there's a plethora out there and just learning how to have simple conversation with them, laugh with them, be light, it made a difference. Wow. Instead of being all serious and what you got for me. And that's a lot of energy. So, yeah.
We've talked about that numerous times. It's just, I think it comes different from a woman saying the same thing that some guys are saying. So you're saying a lot. Oh, you're saying a lot of this.
This is a whole lot. This is my area. I love to talk about this. Yeah.
I know. That's why all I'm doing is giving follow-up questions and just let you go.
Yeah, I feel so passionately about it, and it'll probably be in my next book, just this whole journey that I'm on, because it's so much that I'm learning. And me and my girlfriend talk about it all the time, and she's going through it too. So it's not just me. Like we're applying different perspectives when it comes to relationships and just men in general. And we're seeing just something totally different from what we've been experiencing. So.
But the other part that I also look at is you doing that specifically for dating, or like you said, the self-awareness, the self-development, and then the affirmations of there's a plethora of men. But you can kind of take that into the general sense and just apply that to anything in your life. If you're looking for a job, or if you're looking for a house, or if you know what I mean, you're looking for a certain car. I mean, you're looking at, that's how you develop your life and you build your life on the self-help. So I guess what I just want to make sure, if your audience is listening, it don't have to just be, obviously we're talking about relationships, but you don't have to always be, specifically to men. That's how your life should be. And you'll see a lot of good results, but you can apply that in any type of area. Absolutely. So now going to from where you started, you wanted to now do the self-love or focus more on self-love, self-awareness. You got into the marriage, 10 years, got married 3 months later. And then I think you said you waited another 3 years before you got into the next relationship. And you said you found some of those things. So when you got out of that relationship, what was their mindset after that relationship, where you say, okay, I learned some of these things. I may have applied a little bit, but there's still some more. I'm not perfect. I may still need to get it, but I see it happen a little bit in that relationship. What was your mindset once that relationship ended?
Like the very last one before this one?
Right.
Yeah. That relationship was so eye-opening. I thank him so much for all the stuff he showed me about me. So when I got out of that, one of the things was, I think one of the things I got from it was I will no longer allow anybody to treat me in a way that doesn't serve me and that doesn't honor me. Like that was the first thing, because I didn't like the way I felt. I didn't like how he was treating me, but I wasn't standing up for myself to demand something different. So when I got out of that relationship, it was like, okay, I am clear on how I desire to be treated. Like it's non-negotiable. You know what I mean? But it has to start with me. So I got to figure out how to make myself happy, because this was the final straw. I cannot look for a man to make me happy. So I got to figure that out. So that's when I really got serious about figuring out how to love on me. So it was like a shift from finding out how I'm wired and all that kind of stuff and just learning how to love on me. So what that looked like was I joined this support group, like this freedom group taught by Ashley Gilbert. So it's this freedom support group. And we were talking about self-love. And then I read this book that has been life-changing. It's called The Self-Love Experiment, because I'm like, you know, you hear this stuff, love yourself, but what does that mean? Like, what does that look like? I need practical steps, you know, because I'm a very analytical step-by-step person. So this book broke it down for me. You know, it really helped me to understand how to do it in practical ways. So I just slowly started to go through the book and apply some of the things. And that's when it shifted for me. So it was like, I didn't want to experience treatment how I felt in that previous relationship. I wanted to learn how to love on me in a way that was just, you know, that I had never done before. And I wanted to be clear about how I desired to be treated. He had to treat me how I was treating myself. Whoever I got into a relationship with next, he had to treat me how I was treating myself. And I had to figure out what it looked like for me to love on me. Yeah.
So then are you saying when you did that made it much clearer because I'm guessing before you got into this relationship that you're in now, you may have met other people and you was like, oh, no, that's it. Can't do that next. So it made it clearer for you when you started now coming across certain men to know, like, this is not the pedigree I'm looking for. It's easier for me to curve this person or, hey, turn this person down.
Yeah, it was clear because one, I wasn't trying to run into a whole nother relationship. Even with the man that I'm dating now, I wasn't even looking for a relationship. Like, I wasn't like saying, oh, I'm ready. I didn't feel like I was ready, honestly, for a relationship. That's kind of the mindset that I was in. Like, I feel like there was so much stuff for me to do, but how it, you know, developed and evolved, it just kind of happened organically. And then it just showed me, hey, you know what, you're saying these things like you're not ready, but you're further than you really think you are. So so it was one of those things where I wasn't looking, one, and then two, I would encounter guys and it was just like, I can feel it, I can sense it. No, this ain't it, you know, because it was one of those things where you got to treat me how I treat myself. So if it was bumping up against something where I felt like I was being disrespected or I was being, you know, disregarded or rejected or not accepted, it's like, no, no, I don't have to deal with that. So the tolerance level, it's just, I didn't have a tolerance for treatment.
Got you. So that's also on the flip side. So that's also hard too, because you can have that tolerance because you're like, obviously, you know, nobody wants to deal with bullshit, especially after you come through a lot. Yeah. But then sometimes you can be real tight, and it's almost like you're expecting a perfect person to come across that perfect person where they're perfect every time you meet them, meaning the way that they call you, like the timing, the way that they talk to you, the way that they may text you, you know, maybe don't get no, you know, YWD texts, or the way that they court you, the way that they pursue you to the point where you're now being really, really, really strict. Yeah. So how did you make sure that you don't want the bullshit, of course, but at the same time, you're not really to the point where you're weeding out everybody because you're just, I want all check boxes checked before I even think about talking to you.
Absolutely. You know what really helped me? It was the two support systems that I had. So I had my cousin who I really value, Malcolm, who I've had on here before. I value him. So I had him. And then I had my sister, my really good girlfriend, Nefertitiria. So I had both of those to help me to relax, you know, some of the tightness. Because I was on that road of like, you got to have this, that. But then it was like they knew what I truly desired. So as I shared, you know, things with them, and even when I met the man that I'm dating now, it was just like, chill out, you know, just relax, give him a chance. You know what I mean? And so it was the help of them to help me to relax, you know, that tightness that I had, or that rigid, you know, the rigidity that I had. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. And it's almost like, you know, when you meet somebody that treats you the way that you truly desire to be treated, it's like, it just opens you up. You know what I mean? So it was like something happened as well where I didn't have to, I was like, oh, this is okay. Well, I want to get to know you because you showing me something totally different. And this is connecting with who I am. So it's like, it just relaxes you, you know, and he has a calm demeanor anyway. So it's like, you know, and he's real gentle, you know, so it was just like him, how he's wired, pulled me in as well, you know, because it helped me to relax. Like, I ain't here to play no games, you
Right.
know, I just want to cater to you. I want to treat you well, you know, I want to be treated well, you know what I mean? So he ain't come with no games.
Okay.
And so I really was attracted to that. Yeah. So I think that helped as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
His approach was different. Yeah.
So then with that being said, so now progressing, so now you now knowing how you want to be treated, you're not taking no nonsense, but then at the same time you're trying to relax a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
now he's doing things and showing you things probably more than you're expecting, and you're like, oh, okay, this could actually be something, or this could. So how did you get past the part of, you know, how sometimes I guess women or some women go through a lot of bad men to the point where sometimes it's kind of common, and then when you get somewhat of a guy who's doing some of the things that you want or like, it
Yeah.
kind of throws almost like that's a red flag, like something got to be wrong with him,
Yeah.
or what's really going on. So how did you get past that phase to be, and then to the phase of, hey, you know what, I got something good here, and let me just enjoy that.
Woo, it's been a journey, and I'll say it has been a journey. So, one, the two support systems that I have, my cousin and my girlfriend, so they have been instrumental in my process. And when I tell you, we talk every day. Like, me and my girlfriend talk every day, so I'm always processing those kind of thoughts with her, that I may have, and so she'll talk me off the ledge. So that's one, having a girlfriend to talk you off the ledge, so that you don't, you know, sabotage the whole operation. Um, and then being honest with him, I had a conversation with him when we went probably on our second date, and I was getting into my head about who, you know, what was going on, all that kind of stuff, and ready to, you know, close up. But I was just honest about it, and I told him about it, you know, and we had a conversation about it, and we probably talked for like a couple of hours. And he was like, you know, if someone is showing you what you say you desire, then what is there to be afraid of? You know what I mean? And that kind of stopped me in my track. And I was like, you know what? You're right. So in this moment, I need to make a conscious decision. Am I going to let fear run this show, or am I going to choose to be open? And on the phone, when I was talking to him, I was like, you know what? From now on, I'm choosing to be open. And it was I kid you not, it was as simple as that. And that's when our relationship progressed and really moved forward, because I just made a choice. I was like, I am not going to allow this aspect of me, which is fear, which is D. You know, D is that fearful one, that one who's cautious. I'm not going to allow her to lead the way. And I told her, like, nah, we're not going to do this. And I just had to have a conversation with her. And it was like, from then on, I was like, I'm open. And I was. And, you know, he's still grooving.
Well, that's good with your support system. Because
Yeah.
I will say, from my past experience and from other people that I know, there's some dudes out there that sense that from women.
Yeah.
Whether they serious or not, okay, that's one thing or another, but they sense the whole rigidness, and they sense the whole fearful part, where sometimes a dude's like, man, I don't have a problem putting I got to pursue the woman or whatever, but I don't want to go through these extra hoops just to show you, one, that I think that I'm a good dude, or just to try to please you and put my hat in the ring, and you still thinking about showing me some affection, some type of, you know what I mean, that you like me or whatever. So sometimes it could be a turn off, because sometimes some guys just don't want to do that actual work.
and and
So
that, and that's true. And I just want to say something to that. It just dawned on me, like, man, he hasn't given me a reason to even be fearful. So where is this really coming from? You know what I'm saying? So it was like that self-talk, that self-awareness, that journaling, all this self-work that I was doing. It's I'm still doing it in this relationship, so that I can check myself, you know. Not that I'm perfect, not that he's perfect, but the only one that I can control is me, you know. So it's me doing my work in the midst of being in this relationship, to make sure I'm checking in with what's going on, so that I'm not sabotaging, you know, what's happening. So I had to ask myself, he hasn't given me anything to be afraid of, so let me deal with where this fear is really coming from.
got
So,
you.
yeah. So it all goes back to your relationship with yourself. I'm telling you, it's so important. Yeah.
Got you. So as you always are, you're very cognizant of the time. So
Yeah, because we can talk all day.
I'm paying attention to the time, so I don't want to drag it out any more further. So is there anything you want to wrap up with based off of either anything that we talked about, anything that you shared, anything that you learned, any plugs, anything? What would you want to leave with?
So one of the things that I also forgot to mention that was also a support system that has been monumental. I started counseling in 2013, and I also started attending an organization called Real Women. And so the work that I'm doing on myself, I'm in a circle of women. We meet every month, and it's, we've grown, but we met every month starting since 2013, and we're doing this kind of work. So I'm around other women that's doing this same work, and it's helping me to continue on this process. So that's another thing I want to add. So if you're a woman, you're watching this and you're like, yeah, that sounds great, but I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know how to even start the process of doing the work. That's another avenue that has been life-changing for me, Real Women. And it's just a safe space for us to do professional or personal development work on ourselves. And that's how I really learned how to do a lot of the stuff that I'm doing within my self therapy, this support system, and then also my girlfriend and my cousin. So those structures, get a structure that will help you to break some of the habits that you have. If you don't, then you're going to continue to be in the same cycle. And get comfortable with who you are, the stuff that you don't like and the stuff that you do like. Because if you don't deal with and accept the stuff that you don't like about you, then you're going to continue to beat yourself up, and the negative self-talk will get into your head and you won't move forward the way that you truly desire to. So be okay with the stuff about you. Be okay with you being unorganized. Be okay with you being a procrastinator. Whatever it is that you don't like about you, be okay with it so that you can love every aspect of yourself. Because that's something that I had to learn too, to accept all the stuff, everything about me. The one that got into the relationship, the one that rushed into marriage, I had to learn how to love her, all parts of me. So be okay with that. And if you just need support, please reach out to me, because I can just walk you through it. I can just walk you through this, starting where you are and walk you through your journey, not mine, because I don't want you to walk my path. I want you to walk your own and just have somebody walking alongside you to do so. And lastly, I will plug my book, because I talk about it so much. I talk about my process, my journey, Dear Miss Wholeness, which I'm still on, but this is one season of my journey that I talk about. And you can get this at ShavonCarter.com or Amazon.com, Dear Miss Wholeness, and it'll change your life. And I get real about my life. All my business is out there from that season of my life. So if you want to be nosy, if you just want a good read, people have said they read it in a day, like it's a page turner. So I encourage you, and it'll change your life. I have questions at the end of each chapter, just so you can do some self-reflection. So I help you do your work in this book. So yeah, that's all.
Well, thank you for allowing me to get on this platform and get a chance to switch it around. I know you're usually doing all the questions and the digging and further into the person's insight, but exposing yourself and sharing your thoughts and sharing your experience. So thank you again. Hopefully, again, we can do something again later on down in the future.
We're gonna definitely have something on again, because we have all kind of ideas that we come up with, and we're both passionate about relationships and just seeing people win, relationally. So I appreciate you and just your time, and just for always being willing to do this with me. So thank you.
No problem. All right. Well, have a good night.
All right. You too.
All right.
All right. Bye, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Good night.